Welcome back to my channel, Melanated Gods of Earth. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host, MODISE The High King. And if you're new and you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that thing. Do that thing and I'll appreciate you. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoy the video and the share. Let other like-minded souls know that we're out here from the motherland with black love. Let's get into today's video. I was going to do a video about China today, but as a follow-up to my video yesterday is getting a bit a few challenges with copyright and all that. I'm trying to edit it and all that, but the point is today I'm just going to touch on a different topic though. I suppose a far more immediate topic. White supremacy in South Africa is at it again, once again, time and time again, as usual. University of the Free State investigates an alleged incident of racism. Makhala Masiteng updates. I don't know what happened. All I know is South Africa in the post-colonial and post-apartheid is a lie. The rainbow nation of multiculturalism and multiracialism has been a nightmare for those of us who were historically oppressed and suppressed and taken advantage of for the past few centuries. Forced to live with the descendants of our colonizers, even though they never had to change their behavior or attitude when apartheid came to an end. That's right, family. That's right. We are the only ones who are required to forgive our apartheid masters. They never had to give up the land. They never had to give up the resources. We thought they would. They were given something known as a sunset clause, which was time to come to terms with the fact that they cannot be white supremacists in the black majority country, yet the fact that they are and training their children to be haters of the black man and woman and the brown man proves that they don't care about redemption. They are hell-bent on becoming or holding on to their ancestors' ways, their forefathers' ways. But let's get into today's video as our people continue to suffer racial abuse, condemnation, ostracization, and all those things to his benefit. The white man continues to terrorize our people. Let's continue.
We will go to other stories just very shortly. We'll also go in just a moment to my colleague Makhala Masiteng, who is on a story pertaining to a management at the University of the Free State, basically investigating a racial slur incident at that particular university. But we will go to her as soon as we are able to touch base with her in just a moment. All right, let's go to that story now. Makhala Masiteng is on that story for us. Management at the University of the Free State says it's investigating an alleged incident of racism at its main campus in Bloemfontein. It's alleged that a white student referred to a black student as a baboon during a lecture on the 14th of this month. The lecturer is alleged to have labeled the statement as a joke. The university says it condemns all forms of racial actions and that it views the matter in a very serious light. Let's go now to SABC News reporter Makhala Masiteng. Thank goodness she's available now. Makhala, thanks indeed for joining us. Talk to us about what the university is investigating and how serious these allegations are.
For a little bit of background context, it's not about the trivial nature of the incident per se, but the collective principle, because there's always something. Every year, the black child is told that he's free now, and every year there's always a story, an incident. A couple of months ago, was it last year? I can't recall. Another student at another university urinated on the books of a black student. He came in and he saw a white boy drunk and pissing on the black student's books, which is, first of all, obviously disgusting and an outright sign of disrespect, but also revelation of what they think of us, what they think of our education, what they think of our efforts to emancipate ourselves from their oppression. They will urinate on our books and they will racially abuse our people every chance they get. Microaggressions, call it what you will. There's always something. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much, Griselda. This matter is very serious. I was just speaking to some of the students earlier on who said that it is really tense currently because of that incident. You would remember that the University of the Free State actually has a very bad history when it comes to racism, dating back to what happened in 2008 with the Raids matter, where the black workers were made to eat urinated food, and then there were several incidents.
You see?
After that, around 2014, there was also a black student who were hit by a car, and then when he went on to ask about that incident, he was then beat up. And then there was another incident again in 2016. There have been several incidents of racism at the University of the Free State. Now, with the recent incident, as you have alluded in your intro, this is where a student was called a baboon by another student, and when she went on to report the matter, it was then labeled as a joke. So we are getting a reaction from student bodies at the University of the Free State just to get their views, because many students are not happy with what has happened, and they are calling for the suspension of the alleged perpetrator, as well as the suspension of the lecturer. But with me here, I am with Christopher from DASO, who will take us through their views about the recent incident. Thank you very much for joining us. Tell us, what's your view about what has recently happened? We know that the university have a very bad
The least they could have done was interview a black student.
history when it comes to issues of racism.
Yeah, we are very concerned about what happened now at the university with this alleged racial incident. It's heartbreaking that such an indignity could even happen at a higher education institution. And we call on a full investigation to take place, one that is impartial, one that establishes the facts. And we call on the university to promote a culture of unity among the student populace at the moment, as the situation is quite tense, I would say.
I'm not one who continues to promote such things anymore. For me, the illusion is done. Like, the time was over years ago. Right now, what we should be doing is reminding our people that the struggle is not over. The struggle is not over, family.
Let's talk about what normally happens under normal circumstances. Your experience in terms of integration at this university, how is it?
Yeah. In my personal experience, I would say that in my classes, it is integrated, especially because I'm an honors student. I'm a Bachelor of Administration honors student. So in my experience, it is integrated. However, among first-year students, many of them, they do not come from integrated high schools. I can see that cultural integration could be an issue. But DASO, we are committed to non-racialism and to a single nation that is unified.
And that's the phrase that frustrates me, the continuous lie ever told, committed to non-racialism. That literally means, and I've said this before, non-black issues go back to the back, they fall to the back of the line. That's what that means. It means they cannot do anything specifically for black in a post-apartheid, even though specifically black people are the ones who struggled, who suffered the most. It means black consciousness must go out the window in exchange for a rainbow nation, so that other people's, like this young man and his family and his classmates who come from historically white schools, don't have to feel like they're being left out or whatever you. It's a lie, people. Because when you continue to promote the idea of non-racialism in a country that has specifically harmed black peoples historically, our concerns and issues are the last on the agenda. And that is a problem. Issues like this will continue to happen. So no, non-racialism will not work. It has not worked and it won't work.
Thank you very much. I'll come back to you. Let me bring in Thabo from SASCO just to get their views. I've seen a statement that you are already calling for the suspension of the alleged perpetrator as well as the lecturer.
Indeed, my sister, that's how it is. That's how it is. We are calling for the suspension of the student because we do not see it as just being in the same class with someone that would have made such an absurd statement towards another person. So what is also the reason why we are also calling for the suspension of a lecturer, it is because the lecturer took part in downplaying the matter, in saying that the student must just relax and take it as a joke. And it has also been alleged that the very same lecturer has used Africans as a mode of teaching in their class. So it is therefore on those premises and those reasons that we are calling for the suspension of the lecturer pending the investigation, of course.
We've seen a statement where the university is saying that it's investigating the matter, but I've seen on your statement that you're saying that if immediate action is not taken by Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, you will take further steps. Take us through that.
Yes, indeed, that's what we have said. As I have alluded already, that it is not just and comfortable for a student that has been taken through such an absurd allegation, or rather is an absurd statement, being told that you are a baboon and you are having to be subjected to be in a class with the very same lecturer that downplayed the statement and the very same student that would have said the statement. So we're saying to make sure that this student is safe and it is well equipped inside the classroom and is not disturbed by anything. We are calling for, therefore, the suspension of a lecturer and a student. And therefore, if the faculty is not ascertaining that that measures are taken, it is therefore then, as Sasko was saying, would make it a point that there's no student in that class that would have comfort as if there's nothing that had happened or had transpired in that particular class. So it is therefore that we are calling for the immediate suspension pending the outcomes of the investigation of the two, both the lecturer as well as the student that we have made the statement.
Let's talk about the issues of integration at the University of the Free State.
So, when we continue to delude ourselves into believing that multiracialism can function in a post-apartheid society, we will continue to empower the enemy to continue to doing things and saying things of this nature. As the sister said earlier, they haven't stopped doing racial abusive acts. We just give them space to do that every time we allow them to believe that we are committed to non-racialism, even though they clearly are not. They are clearly raising their children to be agents of the white supremacist system. And then they come to these institutions, see black people in the majority for the first time, and they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to think. They don't know what to say. They end up saying the worst things. Proof of the households they come from. Proof of what their fathers and grandfathers are training them to be. Conversations that are being had in their households. How can you continue to use such a phrase or do such a thing in a country that is a black majority? How? What must be going on in your arrogant mind to think that such a thing will fly? So at this point, it's about how much we have been taken advantage of by allowing them to think that, well, not even allowing them to think, but by us willing to give them space to be. Proof that we were not going to oppress them as they oppressed us, but in that space, this is how they behave. Even when we've guaranteed that we're not going to behave to them as they have behaved unto us, they continue to take advantage of that.
We know that it has a very bad history when it comes to issues of racism. There's always been incidents rearing its ugly heads at this university.
It's only been 30 years since apartheid, people. There's no such thing as rearing its ugly head. It just is what it is. It's a segment of our society and our economy that continues to be left alone, like a festering wound.
How is it when you look at it under normal circumstances?
Well, racism is something that has quite been internalized at UFS. And it is hidden from the society for them to see what is it that our students are subjected to. There are a lot of things that would have happened inside the institution where the institution is also, or rather mainly focus on their image, rather than bringing these things to the fore and ascertaining that people get to know about the incidents that happen in UFS and get to have this inclusivity as well as diversity that they so frequently want according to their Vision 130. They rather downplay these things and make it a point that they subtle them and deal with them institutionally. So it is quite upset, and it is unfortunate that a fellow student was subjected to this. and the institution is quite rather doing what it is usually doing, downplaying the matter. If it wasn't for SASCO being there and making a point that the voice of the student is heard, and we make sure that this injustice that occurred, it gets to be unrooted, it wouldn't have even been at this particular stance where we found ourselves. So it is thus we are saying it is quite upset and unfortunate that the University of the Free State is still perpetuating and influencing racism, and it is quite hiding it rather than making sure that it unroots it in institutions.
And that's the cost of non-racialism, people. It requires you to ignore the fact that this country is traumatized. It is heavily segregated in the economy. It is just, we're still colonized here, people. We're colonized, we're sharing our nation with colonizers, and all they can do is continue to take advantage of our capacity to be peaceful and loving people until we're not. And that's the time that we're in now. More and more EFF protests have been happening. More and more people around the country have been refusing to take this nonsense. Bet money the age of our abuse is over.
Hear from you, what should happen to solve whatever that is that you're talking about, issues of racism on campus?
What must happen is we must have a decolonized vice chancellor that would not perpetuate racism as well as hate speech and hide them behind their so-called vision that they want, which is called down the Vision 130 if you were to look at it. So what we're saying is having people such as Lecturer Petro Mzilin or Dr. Petro Mzilin being at the forefront of institutions such as this one, it is then we are going to have with certainty that we are going to have a transformed institution that does not have injustices of this nature getting to occur.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to bring back Daso, Christopher. I want to hear your views. We've talked about
So like a black and white.
what you've experienced on campus. You're saying that from your class, no issues, but you are still seeing some remnants of racism when you look outside. What should happen for this university to finally transform and move away from this incidents of racism from time to time rearing its head at this on this campus?
I definitely think that the university
Oh, and the man is a DA. Oh, no. Y'all know how I feel about the Democratic Alliance. What a waste.
should have some multicultural integration programs, especially for students that do not come from integrated high schools. It's really
Multiculturalism as in everybody else who's black. But the colonizers, they need to get the, like, dog. It doesn't work anymore. They are too much. They're too caught up in their ways. 30 years since apartheid. That's nothing. The idea that they would give up their racist ways because apartheid is over was a delusion. A delusion. They've been mad and angry ever since, trying to fight to regain control of this country. That's what the DA is all about. A white president who thinks that it's been the 30 years since they've been in power is enough time. We're still a traumatized people.
really important, I would say, to then create a sense of cultural understanding and shared belonging in this institution.
You talked about how you would love for the management to handle this matter, take into consideration that soon there will be examinations, and because of this incident, because it has raised issues, obviously the situation is tense now.
Yes, so we've already heard a few rumblings about possible protests that could happen if the university does not handle this issue correctly, and we are calling for calm, and we really want the university to just respond to this matter effectively in order to avoid possible protests that could disrupt then the examinations that are starting in October.
Thank you very much. That is Christopher from DASO. He was together with Thabo from SASCO, just taking their views on what has happened, telling us from SASCO side that they want the student to be suspended as well as the lecturer, because they're saying that the situation will not be nice for those who have been affected by this matter. They have said that they will take this matter further if the university fails to act immediately. We have seen, of course, the statement released by the University of the Free State, where it says that it will, or rather it is investigating this matter. They have said that they will respond later on, but for now we'll stick to what they have released on that statement. But earlier on, Griselda, when I was talking to just...
Suspension is not enough. Expulsion. Zero tolerance. Everyone who comes from these historically white institutions must be given a psychological evaluation. I'm not even playing on that note, bro. I'm not even playing on that note. A psychological evaluation. We cannot hope for the best that these kids are not agents, or supremacist agents. We must trust but verify. We must verify whether or not they have any strange ideologies in their heads, whether or not their grandparents were hardcore, as Americans would call them, clan members. We have them here too, family. They're constantly training in the bush, coming up with all manner of plots on how to incite civil wars, how to make Cape Town its own nation. I've covered this on previous videos. Have I? Yes, I have. But I think I will go into deeper note on that in the future. And I think I'm going to go into more videos of this particular nature going forward. Yes, indeed.
Random students are passing by here at the main gate of the University of the Free State, just talking to them about their normal day experience as to what happens on a normal day. We still have students who are saying that when it comes to classes, you still see separation. When it comes to classes, you will still see the white students isolating themselves and the black ones isolating themselves. So this speaks again to the issues of integration on this campus, of course, take into consideration of many incidents that have happened at the University of the Free State, and also what we have seen recently with that issue of another land, rather a white student calling a black student a baboon.
Now, on the question of integration, Royal Bloodline, conversations on certain sections of TikTok have been happening for some time now about whether or not integration worked, or whether or not we actually wasted our time because we didn't fully understand what we were asking for when we asked for it. When we said peace and equality, what did we mean? What did they mean when they saw it, when they heard peace and equality? Because while in a perfect world, yes, you would think people could just be people, but in a country this early, out of 400 years of white supremacist rule, naive are we to believe that integration is a thing. South Africa has never really had as much as a hardcore focus on high-end, strictly black education. For the Rainbow Nation to function, they had to destroy black consciousness. I will share a video on that on my TikTok real quick. Let me do a login. Yeah, let's just do that real quick. Let's let that do its due.
Was able to live with from that particular class was being labeled a baboon by a particular white student that's there by the university. So of course, as the FFSC in the Free State, we are going to be taking extreme measures to ensure that, one, the immediate suspension of the perpetrator involved, because
expulsion,
that student should not have any place whatsoever on our campus, because we believe that institutions of higher learning, and even South Africa in general, should have no place for racism, and we should not tolerate racism at all. So as the FFSC, we condemn all means of what had then now happened at that moment in time on the 14th of September, and we will be taking action against that.
We have heard of many incidents of racism at the University of the Free State. How is the transformation, according to your experience?
Yes, of course. As I said, my sister, this racial incident is really taking us back, because we are thinking that we are somewhat on a path of transformation, because if what we call the past racial incidents that have happened with thought the university is gradually, of course, changing and more welcoming towards black students, as now they're the current majority inside the university. But then we're still seeing racism rear its ugly head on our campus. So now the transformation, it seems as if now there's been a slow pace in transformation. And one of our founding pillars is that we are going to be pushing for the transformation, and we want to ensure that racism should have no place whatsoever in our campuses.
Thank you very much. That is Tepam from the EFF Student Command. I'm going to bring in Axola Toto from the SRC. He's actually the president of the SRC at the moment, just to take us through their views as the SRC and what is it that they have done up to so far since this incident.
Since the incident of 14 September, we have written to the management after we noticed that actually it's now a long time that this incident is there. We first wrote to the HR department, Human Rights Department, requesting that something be done on an urgent basis. And we further wrote to management as well. As they were responding, we told them that this incident should not be kept under carpet. It should be made public, because now it's a matter of public interest and the ground is volatile as at this moment. And this being kept under carpet portrays another posture that the university on its own is downplaying the issue of racism. We highlighted that this should not be put under carpet because, remember, this university is a former white university and there's a lot of history of racism. You go to your Shimla Park.
Like, just think about that, family. Think about that for a moment. They colonized us, segregated themselves during apartheid, segregated us, forced us to get something that was called Bantu education, which is basically slave education, which had no interest in educating black people to its fullest potential, but making black people better slaves in our own country, our own land. Then they had the nerve to keep us out of these institutions. And on top of that, we're supposed to share the future with this generation of colonizers, because clearly they're still.
Incident, you go to an incident where white students fed black workers feces. Right, and then we told the management that they must never ever keep it under carpet. Hence you saw them releasing the statement, because we told them that there's a possibility of an uprising in the University of the Free State.
All over Africa, all over South Africa, there should be an uprising. There will be an uprising. If you're a white South African and you see this video, understand that if you're not doing enough to change your ways, the time is done. The time is coming where you will be run back to Europe. You will be put on boats. You will go back through Cape Town all the way back to Europe. Trust me.
Because this thing is now gaining a lot of traction. And yeah, we condemned it. We called for suspension. We are closely monitoring the case. We are in contact with the victim. We keep on updating them. And yes, we really do not want people to take us back to our past days, our dark days. It must not happen now that this country wants to transform.
Take us to what happened on that day. I understand you were the first people to be called on the incident when the incident happened on that day. What happened?
On the day I was in my office, and then there's a knock on my door saying that, "President, did you see your WhatsApp?" And then I see my WhatsApp, and then we see that there's someone is complaining that they were called a papoon, referred to as a papoon. We rushed there with other few SRC members. When we get there, we were told that the boy fled, and there was a lot of complaint according to those to the witnesses who were there, saying that this particular person called this other one. In fact, they were a group. They referred to this one, a black student, saying that you are a baboon. And when students acted in good faith, taking it up with the lecturer said, no, that must be ignored. It's a joke, right? That's how they are. And then we called Protection Service so that they can come and see what is happening, so that the student can be able to open a case, and that case should be followed up.
So a case has been opened as we speak?
Yes, there's a case opened and it's currently running, and yeah, we are closely monitoring it. Each time we're writing to them asking for updates regarding to the case. Yes.
Well, you work with students on a daily basis. You also still attending classes, I understand. How is it under normal circumstances? Is there transformation at the University of the Free State?
The transformation at the University of the Free State at some state, I can agree that it's going there, but as things are right now, hey, Gary, we are moving 10 steps back, according to what I see, because if you get to look after...
In other words, black people in this country are the only ones, black and brown people in this country are the only ones who are concerned with moving forward. The enemy doesn't care about moving forward. He just wants to hold on to his white privileges. He just wants to be able to terrorize blacks with zero impunity. So we've been the only ones who've been doing the work to try and live in peace.
That
They told themselves they don't have to.
case, there was a surge of complaints against particularly the nurse faculty. And when you get to look at the structure of nurse faculty, you get to see that this structure is very white. Let me put it like that plainly. It's very white. And then on the statement that...
In a black majority country that time, in a black majority country, you still have all white segments of the economy, all white segment of medication, all white segment of institutional education, all those things. Where is the black consciousness?
Again, in the communication to the management.
And then we send our children to these schools and we wonder why they come home all Oreos. Black on the outside, but white on the inside. White mentality, white cognition, white everything.
We requested that structure must be looked at. Yes.
When you talk about nurse faculty to somebody who is not studying at the University of the Free State, what are we talking about?
We are talking about natural and agricultural sciences faculty. Yes, that is the faculty. So I've seen again that's...
In other words, the farmers. So they don't have to give up the land because they are training their children to be in charge of it, to the exclusion of the indigenous peoples who they stole the land from. And the rest of us are stuck chasing useless degrees, like very intellectualized degrees, but non-practical ones. If it's not about the agriculture, if it's not about construction, if it's not about plumbing, if it's not about architecture, if it's not about the practical things that develop society, it's basically useless. And only they are the ones who are educated about mining. They are the ones who are educated about farming. They are the ones who are educated about this, that, and the third. And they purposefully keep us out of it, gaslighting us into oblivion.
Students also took a memorandum to the dean of faculty, requesting for, in fact, calling for a suspension, an immediate suspension.
Expulsion. That's what I demand.
Within 48 hours. And as things are now, the ground is very volatile, I can tell you.
Thank you very much. That is Akola Toto, the president of the SRC at the University of the Free State, telling us of the steps that they have taken as the SRC since this incident occurred, of course, raising some of the issues that have been raised by the students at the University of the Free State, especially since that incident, that now there's also a call, of course, for the suspension of the student, the lecturer, but also there are concerns now with the Faculty of Agriculture at that university in terms of management, as he said, that it is white. So they're also then calling for an intervention or action to be taken on that matter. We'll continue, of course, to speak to students on the ground to hear what is saying, but also monitor what will happen, of course, as they have all alluded to that.
Nevertheless, family, kiss the bua, the farmer, hi, hi, kiss the bua, the farmer, hi, hi, brr, pa, pa. It's that simple. We thank Sasko very much for being our voice in this matter. No measure would have been taken if it wasn't for you. Thank you to South African Student Congress for standing in solidarity with the student. Is there anyone who attended that lecture who can explain what happened? Not enough details have been disclosed. I graduated from this university in 2002. I can't believe things are still the same. Wow. Believe it. South Africa has a deeply complex and painful history of racial discrimination, apartheid, and racial violence. This history has left lasting scars on the nation and its people. It is within this historical context that any racial incident should be viewed. Like I said, the use of derogatory racial slurs, such as calling someone a baboon, carries with it the painful legacy of dehumanization and racial hatred. I want to read more. Woo! It's a whole goddamn budget speech. I'm gonna do it, fam. She seems like she knows what she's saying, this one. University as institutions of higher learning have responsibility to foster an inclusive, respectful environment for all students. Well, regardless of their race or background, in a perfect world, maybe. In the South African context, many universities have had to confront their own histories of racism and exclusion, as they were often complicit in enforcing apartheid policies and empowering apartheid policies through their own education. So their children got to learn about computer sciences, farming, mining, and the rest of us only got to get slave education, which was being workers in general, at the mercy of as cheap labor. That's all they cared about, educating us enough to be cheap labor. The response of the lecturer, who dismissed the incident as a joke, raises concerns about the institution's commitment to addressing racial issues and promoting a safe and respectful learning environment. It's essential for the universities to have clear policies and mechanisms in place to address incidents of racism and discrimination promptly and effectively. Furthermore, such incidents highlight the need for ongoing education and awareness programs that encourage students, staff to confront the challenges of racial biases and stereotypes. Like I said, every white student must be given a psychological evaluation to guarantee that they're not going to abuse the students going forward. Furthermore, such incidences highlight the need for ongoing education awareness programs. Universities can play a pivotal role in promoting reconciliation and healing in post-apartheid South Africa by actively addressing instances of racism and fostering an environment of tolerance and understanding. Okay, but why is it our responsibility to work on reconciliation? Why should we be the ones who are working on this? We're not the ones who are psychological lunatics. For 400 years of brutalizing a people, that's not our responsibility. That's why in South Africa, I would foster an institution of strictly black and black consciousness, like our brothers and sisters in America have, where they have historically black universities, even though now they're starting to get a little bit weird. But nevertheless, in conclusion, the incident involving the use of racial slur in the university setting should not be taken lightly, especially in South Africa with the painful history of racial oppression. It underscores the importance of universities actively addressing such incidents and working towards a more inclusive and respectful academic community that acknowledges the historical context and seeks to heal the wounds of the past. What were the replies to that? Oh, blocked by the algorithm. Okay. Yeah, that's that, fam. The enemy continues to take advantage of the peaceful space we gave him. When you turn on my dark mode, there's a couple of there's a clip I want to share. I don't know if I can find it. But before we continue on the clip that I would share, let me share this one. No, actually, let's continue. Let's do it like this. Hopefully I can find it because it was a while ago. Very, very old. I've been on TikTok for about a year now. Hey, come on now. There you go. I don't know how far back I would have to go. But that's the world we live in, family. There's no point to inclusion if we're the only ones who are doing the work, and then we end up losing ourselves in the process. Very, very old clip. Months old. I hope I can find it for real. That clip was about land thief, and I'll do that later on in another video. Oh man, if you remember that video with this one where the lady was being terrorized, but let's not talk about that because they demonetized it once. So it's fine. Come on, come on, come on. TikTok is always slow when I connect with it on my PC. Very irritating, but it is what it is. Oh, okay. Hopefully we're getting close. When was the submarine incident? It was a few months back. Come on. Yep, it's a long time ago. Oh no, Britney Schofield. I'm not even going back as far. All right, fam. I'm just gonna share my personal clip. On that note, there's no way I'm gonna find that one. Too many. I've been here for way too long to ever find such a video. All I can do though is share my take on things. Come on. Where was I? Boom, son. Take a look at that. Black consciousness is what liberated us from enslavement. Black consciousness is what enlightened us to being colonized. Black consciousness is what reminded us who the real enemy was during the struggle against apartheid. When apartheid came to an end, black consciousness was a threat to the peace. The false peace treaty that allowed the enemy to maintain his resources that he has gained in those years. The concept of multiracialism was created to destroy black consciousness and replace it with the Rainbow Nation. And confused once again by the concept of a Rainbow Nation, we forgot who the real enemy was. And we allowed ourselves to believe that we could live in peace with these people. People we spent centuries fighting. And in that time, the enemy took the opportunity to not have to give up any of the resources he stole from our ancestors. The land, the wealth, the economy. He held on to all these things with an iron grip and promised the future to his descendants, while our children continue to languish in poverty, the same poverty he cast us in. And so to resurrect black consciousness is a declaration of war against the concept of multiracialism. That's right. The South African Rainbow Nation. To emancipate ourselves from this neo-colonial economy, we must remind ourselves who the real enemy is and do as our ancestors did. Fight. And this racist white woman had the nerve to come into my comment section and say, "You are responsible for your own poverty. Most people in South Africa get along no matter what color. You are a troublemaker, hater," and called me the racist word. The nerve of this woman. How are we responsible for our own poverty when they are the ones who colonized and brutalized us and stole it all? Someone replied to her saying, "I think that's what he means. You have no choice but to get along and shortly not in a position to make any demands. You are the ones who are always making demands. You think the whole world owes you. Ah, reparations! You want to live out here but you don't want to make up for your ancestors' atrocities. You want to live in peace, but you don't want to give up the land practically. Nope. Peace is overrated. But that's it for today's video, Real Bloodline. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Was it worth it? Can we live in peace? Because it seems like we're the ones who are paying a price. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that thing. If you enjoyed the video, smash the thumbs up and the share. Let other like-minded souls know that we're out here, and I will see you in the next one, Real Bloodline. Peace.